Alright, I was going to make a video taking a closer look at two of these classic U.S. military firearms, the M1 Garand and the M1 Carbine. So, I've already taken the Carbine out and shot it, and I said, I know a lot of subscribers going to want to know a little bit more detail about the gun, and I was going to do an overview, and I said, well, if I'm going to do the Carbine, might as well pull out the Garand. So that's why I had them out. And then with recent current events, which is always a dangerous topic on YouTube, I was looking at these rifles and I remembered back into the 60s of the political turmoil, the protests of the Vietnam War on the campuses, and all that other stuff going on. And it's just a real bad political situation at the time. And, well, how does this, cover these two guns? Well, at the time of the Vietnam War, we were in a period of re-equipping the Army now with the M16, M16A1, and that eventually. So these huge, vast stockpiles of World War II firearms were becoming obsolete, and traditionally the United States government would sell them. Okay, it used to be before 1968. If they had something they wanted to sell, you just sent them a check or payment, and they would put it in a box and mail it to you. It wasn't until the Gun Control Act of 1968 where you had to be a licensed dealer to do that. But so after all of this commotion, the political turmoil, assassinations and plots to overthrow the government in the 1960s, during all these protests and that, were real things. They weren't just bizarre theories. There were political organizations. Who were the ones that kidnapped Patty Hearst? The Symbionese Liberation Organization or something. There were the Black Panthers. There were several things. On the other side, the far right, there was the Minutemen, and that was backed by a retired Army general that had his plans of overthrowing the government. So there's a lot of stuff that was even worse than today going on. And again, back in the 70s, I remember there was a big stink. When everything kind of settled down towards the end of the 70s, the government still had a stockpile of these guns they wanted to get rid of and turn into money. Okay, is what it was. And again, there was a huge thing when it comes to gun control. And they're still here today. They were brand new then, but Gloria Feinstein and Chuck Schumer were in there and totally against having these dangerous combat weapons turned over to the general public. And, there was a lot of people, their consensus was, this is a military weapon. This was not a bolt-action gun, even though most of the armies in World War II used a 5-shot bolt-action gun. Okay? So if you bought a surplus KR-98 or a Springfield 03A3, that wasn't a weapon of war, but this was. Okay, so it's kind of ridiculous. They hemmed and hawed, and they never ended up selling the guns. A lot of them ended up in the 80s as drill rifles when I was in the Navy. And eventually, I'm not quite sure. Now, the government wised up, and they sell these things for excess of thousands of dollars each now whenever they get them out of their inventory or whatever. So, yeah, a lot of them memories came back, and the same people. Feinstein, Schumer, and the same story. It was back, 50 years ago. The same crap. Okay? Military weapons, this and that. Evil. Can't have civilians having these. And an interesting story on the Carbine. In World War II, this was the small arms weapon, the M1 carbine. This was the one that the United States made the most of. You know, not 45 HCP handguns or revolvers, not M1 Garands, BARs, or Thompsons. It was this weapon, had the highest production number. And surprisingly, the United States government didn't release these for sale or made them surplus or anything until the late 1950s. Okay? And then a lot of the refurbished ones. And they had so many of these guns brand new in storage, like this one here, that I think the individual whose estate I got this out of, he bought this either in the very late 50s or the early 60s, bought it through the mail, was sent to the house, brand new in a wrap. It's got a manufacture date of 1948, so that means that the government contracts, even though the war ended, the government still had the contracts running for so many years. They didn't immediately cancel them, which was kind of, I don't know. Or they I'm not quite sure the production history of these weapons. I do know when the Korean War started, they started producing new weapons once again. Okay, submachine guns and Garands. But, not sure. So that's why I had them out, and I thought I'd make my little speech that nothing much has really changed. And, we're going to go through all this nonsense again. Protest, unrest. Hopefully this will not turn into where we're going to have a run on guns and ammo again. Everyone's going to be terrified that they're going to be murdered in their sleep in their own home like it was before the first election. I hope we don't have to go through all this nonsense again. But anyway, guys, I will do some videos where we'll take a nice overview of these weapons and just discuss them in general. Alright, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.